We haven't gone anywhere. We're still back here. I'm here in my office here in the United States on the East Coast. Murad is a few thousand miles away in his office. He doesn't show his face for a very good reason, because there are many people that would like to do him harm. So, as a result of that, he just looks like this handsome chap here. Listen, I've seen what he does look like. He's about as handsome as what you're looking at. But we don't care about his looks. We don't care about his face. We care about his knowledge, the mind that God has given him. He has an amazing ability to understand not only Arabic, but understand also history. And he's been one of the pivotal people on our team that has been coming together as researchers, along with Mel from Ireland. They have been at the forefront of just unpacking such amazing material coming right out of the ground. They're just pulling all kinds of artifacts. They're pulling all kinds of manuscripts. Now, Murad has done something no one else has done. He's gone back to the Quran, but not to the present day Arabic. What he has done, he's gone back to the Quran to look at the Arabic from the 7th and 8th century, from the time period supposedly the Quran was created. He's done what you're supposed to do with every language, with every book. You go back to when it was written and you find out what the original authors meant. To do that, you need to go back and see what the words were they were using in that context. And then once you do that, then you make a translation. And this is what Murad, here you are. Murad, how long have you been working on this?
It's close to 5 years, and I did not calculate it till I had to finalize the translation, and I'm like, oh my God, 5 years, close to 5 years.
I said in the last episode only two. Actually, you've been working on this 5 years. This has been a real labor of love, and I want to thank you for that. You're doing us such a great favor, and it's so good to finally be able to take the Quran back to its original text. So we're going to do that. We're going to get right into it, and you're going to open up a PowerPoint here and start introducing your material. Over to you, Murad.
Okay. Muslims and non-Muslims alike know that almost all Quran translations are awful. The Muslim explanation for why they are this bad is that the original Arabic is a miracle and therefore it is impossible to be translated. In this presentation, however, I will show you how Quran translators hide themselves behind that curtain and use the sin standard Islamic narrative to destroy the Quran itself. They are distorting it. Whether you are a believer in Islam or not, you certainly hate lies, especially when these lies are carefully crafted to fool you as an English speaker who does not know Arabic. Do we need another Quran translation? This is a question I get a lot. By the end of this presentation or this series, you will be able to tell, not me. Be aware that the mistakes I'm about to share with you are present in all Quran translations. I have divided Quran translation mistakes into 7 categories: clumsiness or lack of detail, Bible obsession, sin-based standard Islamic narrative-based translations, mistakes that are like pure linguistic mistakes. It means that they do not know Arabic really well. Masking Quranic errors, so there are some errors in the Quran, they mask it. Deception, pure deception, and finally fatal mistakes. In today's segment, we will start with clumsiness or lack of detail. And as you can see here, I have the Quran translators cartoonized into Simpsons because this is how I see their translation. It's a cartoonish version of the real thing. Okay, so we will start with example number 1. Are the word عام and سنة the same? Here it says وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا نُوحًا إِلَى قَوْمِهِ فَلَبِثَ فِيهِمْ 1000 سَنة إِلَّا 50 عام. If I ask you as an English speaker, the audience who are listening, سنة and عام, does it sound the same? Definitely not. And in English, they also should not be the same. but everyone has it as years. And here, the clear Quran has it as 1,000 years less 50. So here he just skipped the word am as if it's part of years before it.
All right. So what you're saying here is in the English translation, they just assume, but I can see even visually that these are completely different words. I don't even have to know Arabic to see that.
Exactly, but they don't really care about the linguistic value of such words. This is not the stuff that interests them. They're interested in Muhammad and his battles, in his wives, but stuff like this of linguistic value, the difference between sana and am is very important. They do not care. And here Mustafa Khattab, the clear Quran, as you can see, he just glossed over it as if it didn't exist. He says 1,000 years less 50, as if this word am did not exist. And here in Sahih International, they say years minus 50 years because they do not know what is the synonym of year in English. Sana in Arabic is year. Am is year that has to do with seasons, seasonal year. The way you calculate this is different than this. Almost all Quran translators translate am and year into sana, into year, am and sana into year, when actually one is year, sana, and the other am is something else. It's seasonal year or season. That's the word am.
Okay, hold on
This,
right there.
yeah,
That's hugely significant because you can have many seasons in one year.
exactly.
So this is a
Yeah,
mistranslation right there. Minus 50 years, it's minus 50 seasons. That would put a huge difference on the number of years we're talking about.
exactly. But that's something that they don't really care about because this is linguistics. You see, they only care about the standard Islamic narrative, what Muhammad did, what he liked to eat, and this kind of stuff. So in my translation, of course, I look deeply into the linguistic value of words. This mistake shows the general linguistic ignorance of Quran translators. Now here we will go to example number 2, and it says ابنتين هاتي على أن تأجرني 8 حجج. Hijaj is just the plural of Hajj. People, they know this. Hajj is pilgrimage. But here, the translators, Clear Quran and Sahih International, they just have it as years. Why? Because they get this from the Sin. The standard Islamic narrative says that Hijaj here is exceptional and it means years, which is very wrong.
Okay,
I will
go back
just
to that
go,
before you go forward. So
yeah,
basically, what you're saying here, this should be in my service for 80 Hajjs, or you serve me for 80 Hajjs. The comeback they'll say is, yes, but a Hajj is only once a year. Am I correct? So why not put year there?
because this makes it flimsy. And it now you do not have the exact same word in the Quran. Now, if someone who is doing the academic work and wants to progress in academia, you have to give him the exact literal word. And I asked the question, what's the problem with putting Hajj there? What's the problem with putting pilgrimage there? You see?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, good stuff. Terrific. Excellent.
Here, Pickthall, he has it as Hajj, as a pilgrimage here. So there is one translator who knows that it's, I'm just putting this up so that people don't say I'm making stuff up. But that doesn't mean that his translation is superior. He just happens to get this one right and a lot of other things wrong. Now we will move to a third example. These translators, they fail in math. This word here, ضعف, I have looked deeply into this word. They say it means multiplied. Here with Mustafa Khattab, Clear Quran. Sahih International has it as double, which is correct. ضعف is double. Now, if we move here, ضعفين. ربنا آتهم ضعفين من العذاب. ضعف is not the same as ضعفين. ضعفين is two doubles, but here they have it as double. It should be two doubles, which is an equal of 4. So here it's saying our Lord gave them two doubles of torment. That's what's going on. Now, of course, someone could argue, Murad, this is very trivial. I will tell him, if everything is trivial in your eyes, then you have a very flimsy, clumsy translation. But these people, they did not imagine that one day I will come and see this and criticize this.
I mean, I have to laugh because our Lord gives the double our punishment. It should be quadruple our punishment is what it really should be, which is a lot more severe.
Exactly. The Quranic author is saying quadruple to make it more severe. Now you just say double? Why?
Okay, good stuff.
Moving on, this one is very critical. It's about the word بضع. Let's see here. فلبث في السجن بضع سنين. بضع. Here they say several years. Again, this is I'm bringing these examples because these two translations are the most one that lure Muslim converts in, the Western people. The Clear Quran, Mustafa Khattab, Sahih International. They both have it here as several. So does it simply mean several? Let's move on to the next example. We will see if these people are consistent or not. The very same word here, في بضع سنين. This has to do with Byzantium defeating Persia and this supposed prophecy of the Quran. Now, what do they do here? Do they just say several? No. They say within 3 to 9 years. All of a sudden, this word which just means several is within 3 to 9 years to make the prophecy fit. Here they got the meaning of the word بضع from the Arabic dictionary, which they have ignored all along. Why? To simply make the prophecy fit. So with the previous example here, with Joseph being in the prison for some years, they don't want to say here within 3 to 9 years. They don't want to confine themselves because it might be problematic. Also, they forgot it's the clumsiness. They forgot that بضع here is the same as بضع there. So they just have several. But when it comes to Byzantium defeating Persia, then they have to make the prophecies fit. What do you think of this example?
Well, I can see that this is done. This is done to get out of a jam. But let me ask you, Murad, can this word "bada" can it ever be translated correctly as 3 to 9 years, or is it several? Which is the better translation for that word?
If you want to go with the Arabic dictionary, just like in my Quran translation, it's within 3 to 9 years. But what is the difference between me and them is that me, here also in Surah 12, verse 42, I have within 3 to 9 years with
Uh,
Joseph being in prison. So I'm consistent. I'm using the same method. You see, that's the big difference between me and them.
yeah, yeah, I see what you're saying. You've got to, if it's that's this in this place, it's got to be the same in the other. I see what you're saying. Well done.
The question here is why didn't they do the same with this verse? As we were saying, one, because they forgot. Two, because they don't care at this point. They only care when it makes the Quran seem to have stated a correct prophecy. But with the other verse here, Joseph being in the prison, they do not care. So this is segment one, the clumsiness of Quran translators.
Well, Murad, that's a great introduction. I mean, in every case, you gave 4 examples of this clumsiness, this lack of detail. And what you're doing is you're saying, hold on a minute. This is going to have theological and doctrinal differences as we move on. These are just quick to the point as a good introduction of why you need to be consistent. If you're going to say that Joseph was in the prison just a few years, but later on the Byzantines destroy or defeat the Persians in 3 to 9 years, which you're saying is really the better translation, you've got to do that with Joseph as well. But you're going to get into problems here because if it's 3 to 9 years, that's going to be disputed by those who follow the biblical story of Joseph. So you can see, rather than get into that dispute, they just put several. So that would have a doctrinal problem if it remained the way that the Arabic gave it. I love what you did also with the double. They're making it more intense. The punishments are actually quadruple what God is going to give you, not just two. And the whole thing about the pilgrimage, rather than putting years in, which you already said earlier with Ayman and Sana, are years. Those are already seasonal in years that are different. So obviously there are many seasons within a year. But the Hajj pilgrimage, putting that to years again, you can see in every case, either this, and it's great what you asked at the very end. Did they forget that they were now translating in Arabic? They forget their Arabic? Or are they just lazy and didn't care? What would you suggest is going on here? Obviously, in some cases, it may be intentional because they didn't want to get into the problem of how many years Joseph was in jail. That could be understandable. But the other cases, it looks like they're just inept. What would you say, Murad?
I think every example has its own situation. Like I can tell you that this one, that's why I have it actually in this categorization. Some stuff is just clumsiness, and some stuff is just to imprison you in the sin so that you don't have other options. And some stuff is just that they don't care. They say, well, an English speaker would never look at Am and Sana and think what's the difference. But this is very critical. Am, it's the year, and Sana is the good years with Joseph in Egypt, the good seasons, the fat seasons, the fat years, fat seasonal years. So this stuff is very critical, but as you can see, this part was the clumsiness, just the clumsiness.
Okay, what are we going to do next?
Next, we will look at Bible obsession, how these people are actually obsessed with biblical phrases and put them in the Quran when it shouldn't be in the Quran.
Good stuff. Great stuff. I like this. This is going to be fun. Well, you've heard it from the man himself. We're bringing him on board to go back to the original Arabic, to go back to the Arabic that did exist, and to find out the translators today. It looks like right across the board, they forgot to go to do what every linguist should do, every archaeologist should do, every historian should do. Go and look at the text from when the author lived or when the environment that the author lived. Do not impose your understanding of those words or that text or those phrases or your meanings onto that text. So this has been exciting. We're looking at the clumsiness. Next, we look at Bible obsession. This is Murad and Jay